Hi. No, I can't talk to Lady Catherine right now. No, I can't meet the Dashwoods either. Look, I've got to go. I'm in the middle of something. Bye for now. Everybody wants a piece of the action. Hi, welcome to my mega video. I made the schoolboy error of recording footage here at Steventon, Jane Austen's birthplace, and I forgot to put the microphone on. So please bear with me as I do this voiceover, because it only lasts for 3 or 4 minutes max. I've got to talk about the village, and I've got to talk about Steventon Court, where she lived for 25 years, and also St. Nicholas Church. So let me give you a little overview here, just as I'm whittling away on the screen, but I didn't know I had no microphone. So Steventon is a peaceful village in Hampshire, just outside Basingstoke, and Jane was born here on the 16th of December 1775, and she lived in Steventon for the first 25 years of her life. The Austen family home, a rectory near St. Nicholas Church, no longer exists. You can see me standing outside here. It was demolished in 1824. But we can still see, we can still walk around the land where the house once stood. I'll overlay an image of the house. Now, if you've seen any videos on YouTube where people have said you can see the old well, you can see here that they've actually started building a brick well around the original well that provided the water for Steventon Court. Now, her father, Reverend George Austen, was the rector here and supplemented his income by taking in pupils, a kind of gentleman's boarding school. Jane would have grown up surrounded by not just her family, but also by the energy of curious, mischievous young boys. Now, the rectory was a modest but lively home with a library of over 500 books, usually rich for a country clergyman, and the literary access shaped Jane from the start. Now, it is known that she started writing when she was about 12 years old, while she lived here at Steventon Court. So Jane's father was actually given the role of rector from his cousin, Thomas Knight, who owned all the land. So it was kind of like a position of clergy offered to him. And with that came 200 acres of land, which he also managed an income from that land because of the tenancies. So not necessarily a gentrified gentleman, shall we say? Anyway, and by the by. Across the way, after the rectory was demolished, Jane's brother Edward Austen Knight inherited the land and built a new rectory. And it stands on the other side of the road from where the old Steventon rectory stood. And it was likely the home of Jane's clergyman brothers, James and Henry, when they served in Steventon after George Austen retired. Even after Jane left, the Austen legacy remained woven into the fabric of this place. So now I'm going to take you up to St. Nicholas's Church. I do wish I'd put the audio on, but do stick with me. I know it's a long video, but it's going to be fascinating. So the church was the spiritual and social hub of Jane's world. George Austen preached here for over 40 years, and Jane herself would have attended every Sunday. The interior retains many features she would have known. In the grounds are also buried her 2 brothers. Consider how the parish life and the Anglican Church subtly influenced Austen's themes: morality, duty, and quiet tension of English country society. So as we walk into the church, you can see it still looks, you've got all these old pews and you've got all that mosaic on the walls and everything. And this is the pulpit we're going up, where George would have preached to the congregation, as I said, for 40 years. And I'm speculating here, where would the Austen family have sat? Would we have had Jane in the front seat there? Yeah, it's also fascinating. It was a really lovely experience just walking around the church. Here I came outside and I thought I would find both graves, but I could only find the grave of James Austen. Not sure where the other one was. I did have a look, I do promise you. So that was Steventon, and it was also St. Nicholas's Church. So anyway, the sound comes back now, so sit back, get yourself a coffee or a tea, and yeah, just take it all in. I'm now in a little village of Ashe. There's a parish church just up there, lots of these lovely brick walls. But I want to show you this house, because this is the house of Reverend Lefroy and his wife. So it's the winter of 1795-96, and 20-year-old Jane has a flirtatious relationship with Tom Lefroy, who was an Irish student visiting his aunt and uncle here in Ashe. The Lefroys were family friends, being the Reverend George Lefroy. He was rector of Ashe and just a short walk from Steventon. Jane wrote teasingly to Cassandra, "I'm almost afraid to tell you how my Irish friend and I behaved. Imagine to yourself everything most profligate and shocking in a way of dancing and sitting together. They have balls and everything here." Was it serious? Perhaps, but Tom was sent away swiftly, likely because he needed to marry for money and Jane had none. And there were also concerns that the Lefroy family considered the match with the daughter of a country clergyman to be socially beneath them. So yeah, Tom Lefroy and his aunts and uncle lived here. Now, it was later suggested, and I read this somewhere, that the characters of Jane and Tom Lefroy mirrored the characters of Darcy and Elizabeth, but flip it the other way round, in as much as Jane based Darcy on her character and based Elizabeth on Tom Lefroy's character. It's an interesting thing, isn't it, that, you know, all of these interspersions of the things that, you know, go on in her life creep into the novels. It's lovely. Can't be confirmed. I read it somewhere, I'm not sure, but it makes sense. So yeah, that's where the Reverend Tom Lefroy lived, and Jane would have come here to attend, I'm not going to say assemblies, but apparently it was written that they had balls and things here. Whether it's big enough to have a ball, I'm not sure. But it's a lovely home, isn't it? Looks like Bingley's Netherfield. I love it. We're going to see so much, aren't we, on this little trip pertaining to Jane Austen.